The humble villager is one of the most popular choices for a main character in a fantasy setting. After all, one of the easiest ways to make a main character immediately endearing is to make them an underdog, and there can be no greater underdog than poor people. Fire Emblem villagers have had an interesting history in the series. Not in the sense that they've had multiple changes across the years and have had all kinds of neat fine-tuning between games. No. It's more so that villagers have only been changed once in the franchise. They had one thing going for them for their first 2 games, and then became something completely different in every game afterwards. No other class has really had a major shakeup like Villager, and I think that's pretty cool and worth talking about. But before we get into that, I would like to ask you to please like and comment on the video and subscribe to my channel. I know asking for that before a video even begins is really tacky, so I'm not asking, I'm threatening. If you don't like, comment, and subscribe, I'm going to break into your house and replace every single movie you own with a version that has been AI upscaled to 4K and 60 frames per second.
There is no meme. This is just a threat.
Alright, let's lay down some ground rules. First of all, I am talking about the villager class line. Not every character in Fire Emblem that's a villager. So this is going to include the villagers from Gaiden and Echoes, the trainees from Fire Emblem Sacred Stones, the villagers from Fates and Awakening, and 2 other characters who technically aren't villagers, but they clearly are the villager archetype. We'll get to them when we get to them. Secondly, I am strictly talking about unit quality, not character quality. So if I say something like Ewan is poop from a butt, I am not talking about his character, I'm talking about him as a unit. And off of that point, third, unit quality is highly subjective based on what type of playthrough you're doing. Be it a casual, Iron Man, or efficiency playthrough, there are many different lenses to view a unit from, and I'm going to try to cover all of them. And finally, I get things wrong sometimes, so please have mercy on me. Or don't, and call me a fucking idiot in the comments. I'm a YouTuber, not a cop, I can't stop you. The villager class line first makes its debut in Fire Emblem Gaiden, where they are the basic among basics on the totem pole. They have poor stats, poor movement, can technically use swords, but the whole point of villager is to get out of villager as soon as possible. Because while villagers start very weak, they have the ability to promote into 4 different class lines. They have potential. It's what poor people have instead of money. As such, actually talking about villagers as a class doesn't really mean anything, because they promote at level 3, and 2 of your 4 villagers are already at that level, and then the other 2 are going to get to that level within 2 or 3 battles. You really don't have villagers on the map for very long at all. Though there are 2 neat little quirks about villagers, though. The first one is that, for whatever reason, the Dreadfighter class line gets the ability to promote into villager, which is really weird. It'd be one thing if everyone could promote into villager once they reach their final class, as a sort of way for every unit to reclass, but no, it's just Dreadfighters. And I'm not even convinced it's a glitch, because your units that start in the Dreadfighter class line have their own unique spell lists if reclassed into Mage, so this was 100% an intended thing. I just could not tell you why. It doesn't make much sense to me. The other weird quirk about villagers is that you don't actually get to choose what they promote into. You go to a goddess statue to promote, and it'll say, do you want to promote this villager into this? And if you don't like it, you have to say no, and then talk to the statue again, and just keep doing this until it decides to give you whatever class you actually want. Which is way more annoying and obtuse than just giving you a menu. I don't know why they didn't do that. but I'm just going to accept that Fire Emblem Gaiden hates you sometimes. Would you like to be an archer? No. Would you like to be a mage? No. Would you like to be an archer? No. Would you like to be a mercenary? No. I mean, yes! Would you like to be a mage? As for the villagers you get themselves, the first villager you get is Gray. He has good HP and strength, and that's about it. He doesn't really have good growth rates, even for Gaiden standards, outside of HP and strength. But thankfully, there just so happens to be a class line where that's completely fine. The Mercenary Myrmidon Dreadfighter line is perfect for Gray, because with the way that Gaiden stats work, when you promote, you get set to the class bases if you're lower than them. And that line has a lot of speed, so Gray is going to make a very competent Dreadfighter. In fact, probably the best option on Alm's route. Combined with the Lightning Sword coming in very early, and Gray can rack up a lot of damage, no problem. He'll be one of your stronger fighters for Alm's campaign. That being said, I don't normally talk about reclassing in this series, but given that Villager's whole shtick is reclassing, I'm gonna go over it here. Gray's other options are not that good for him. He really doesn't take advantage of the Armor Knight line, since his good stat is strength, and Armor Knight's base strength is so high that he really isn't gaining anything from it. As a mage, he'll get Recover when he promotes, and he gets Sagittae and Thunder, but he doesn't get the best spell in Excalibur, and mages suck ass in Gaiden anyway. And I guess he'd make an okay Cavalier, but Alm's route has a plethora of useful Cavaliers, and Gray's low speed will severely hold him back. And while archers are not very good in Gaiden, I guess Gray makes for a decent one. His high strength and maybe good enough skill will mean he can deal some powerful chip damage, but he's gonna have hit rate problems, and while he'll do good damage, his low speed in the archer class line will mean he doesn't do enough damage to make him worth going as an archer. He really doesn't have potential to be anything, it's more so that he's really good in one thing. So he doesn't really make for the best villager to talk about, but he is still a good Dreadfighter, so turn him into that. And nothing else. The second villager you get is Tobin, and he is as different from Gray as they come. While Gray is really good in one thing and bad in everything else, Tobin is really bad in everything. Tobin's stats, much like Tobin himself, are poor. Ah, shit. I was only allowing myself 3 poor people jokes in this video, otherwise it would start to get too mean-spirited, and I blew all 3 of them before the first 10 minutes. Ah well, there are plenty of other things I can make jokes about. Let me open up the old joke folder and, Tobin's specialties are in skill and luck, and those are 2 stats that really aren't going to help him too much. You would think good skill would make him a competent archer, maybe, but his accuracy is still going to be poor because bows aren't that accurate, and the huge amount of terrain in Gaiden just make that not an appealing option. He could make for a decent mercenary, as the class's good base stats means pretty much anyone can be good in it, but he's going to be an inferior one to Gray, and he just won't have the best production. As a Cavalier, the fact that he does no damage and can't double is just going to make him a worse Clive. And if you want to go the mage route, I mean, he gets Excalibur pretty early, which is the prime spell to have, but again, no strength, no speed, no usefulness. And as an Armor Knight, I mean, his damage problems might get patched up by the class's incredibly high strength, and his actually decent base speed means it'll give him a decent early game presence, but it's not gonna last long enough for him to survive till the end of the game. Tobin is just not a very good unit in Gaiden. He's worth using early on because you literally have no other options, but as the game goes on, Gray and Cliff will just overtake him very easily. Much like Kamari from Final Fantasy X, Tobin can be whatever you want, except useful. The final villager in Alm's route is Cliff, and unlike the two that come before him, he actually has the potential to reclass into whatever the hell you want. He has phenomenal growth rates across the board, with an emphasis on speed and defense, but competent growth rates everywhere. Because of this good stat line, he can truly go wherever you want him to be. You want to make him a cavalier? He'll kick ass. Want to make him a mercenary? He'll kick ass. He can even make archer and mage work, even though they're very weak class lines. It is worth noting that Cliff starts out the weakest unit of your first 5, but given that you get to the first goddess shrine in 3 fights, and it's not hard to get Cliff the 2 level ups he needs to promote there, he's going to be very fine very quickly. Just a solid unit that you get on the first fight of the game, and he'll be in your army until the final fight. Nothing much else to say, but in order to make a good villager, you need to give them good growth rates. Crazy how that works. The lone villager for Celica's campaign is Atlas, and he's basically Gray 2, the sequel. His stat line is very, very similar to Gray's, with good strength and not much else going for him. So just like Gray, if you make him a mercenary, he's going to be incredibly competent. In terms of damage, he's actually going to be the strongest dread fighter in Celica's army. The only problem is when he joins. Gray shows up at the very start of Alm's campaign, so you very quickly make him a mercenary, and he's going to be fine and used the whole time. Atlas doesn't show up until Celica's second act, and he's kind of very annoying to promote there. You have to go to the village after the graveyard fight, but with how graveyards work, every single time you pass over that space, you have to do a battle. So you go into the graveyard, win the fight, go to the left, recruit Atlas, try to leave the village, go into another fight, and then if you want to promote him, you either have to go clear another story battle up north, or go down to the Necro Dragon Shrine, where you can promote him, and then, all the time you're spending lollygagging to promote Atlas, enemies are gonna come from Grief Citadel to make some other fight you have to deal with really fucking annoying, and then, to progress through the game, you have to go back to the graveyard again, and do a battle there for a third time, and then you can progress east, play the game, and then, oh no, when you clear Grief Citadel, you have to open a chest in Atlas's village, so then you have to go back to the graveyard, fight a fight there a fourth goddamn time, go to Atlas's village, get the item, and then fight a fight in that fucking graveyard the 5th time. This entire section about Atlas has been about that fucking graveyard, and I do not care, I hate it, and I just want to bitch about it. I like Gaiden. It's a fun game. I think it has a lot of merit even with echoes existing. But fuck that graveyard.
What the hell was that all about?
Due to his late join time, Atlas will struggle to keep up with Celica's army in an efficient playthrough. However, if you make time to train him up, he will become a very, very competent dread fighter for Celica's late game maps. If you decide to use him, you will be rewarded, but the efficient player might deem him not worth the investment. And that's it for the Villager's debut. Due to their nature as a class line, they don't really have much talk about as villagers, but you know what, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with a class being a stepping stone into greater potential. So, what does the future hold for villagers? Shit and also dick for the next 5 games. Villagers do not make any appearances in Fire Emblem 3 through 7. The class line just was not deemed worthy to continue for a while. But since Sacred Stones is basically Fire Emblem Gaiden 2 in all but name, it brings back villagers. Kind of. In Fire Emblem Sacred Stones, there are the Trainees, who operate as a sort of Tier 0 class. They promote into Tier 1 classes like Fighter or Mage, and then promote again. And since Sacred Stones was the first game to introduce branching promotions to regular classes, that means that trainees have 4 different options to promote into as opposed to 2 for everyone else. Though, in practice, 2 of the trainees have branching promotions that intersect later, so it's actually only 3 options compared to 2. But the thought is there. And also, I just lied to you. If you beat Fire Emblem Sacred Stones twice, once picking Erika's campaign and once picking Ephraim's campaign, you get access to the Super Trainee, where the trainees will be able to promote into the class they're already in, get promotion gains, and then promote again into the class that they're already in, get promotion gains, and then some sort of unique benefit when they reach Tier 2. Though I'll explain those as we get to the units individually. Though I do want to mention that Super Trainees are very bizarrely nerfed in America. I'm talking they have their strength caps cut by as high as 5 points in the American release, and in exchange, maybe your speed cap will be increased by 1. I have no idea why they so dramatically altered the post-game secret reward, but they did. The first trainee you get is the Axe Fighter Ross in his own Journeyman class line. As an Axe Fighter, he has a lot of bulk and a lot of strength, and he'll promote into the Axe classes, either Fighter, which will take him into Hero or Warrior, or Pirate, which will take him into either Berserker or Warrior. A lot of players opt to have Ross go into Pirate and Berserker, which is a very good class line to go into for him. First of all, this promotion will net him 2 speed across his promotion gains, and given that Ross's only bad stat is his speed, that's greatly appreciated. Second of all, there are no pirates and brigands that the player can get naturally, so Ross kinda stands out as unique for being able to be one. And third, pirates promote with the Ocean Seal, which is a completely uncontested promotion item. The only other unit in the game that promotes with it is Calm, and he's a thief. He doesn't really need to promote to do what he wants to do. So it's basically Ross's exclusive promotion item, whereas the Hero Crest has some competition with the likes of Garrick. If trained up in the player's army, Ross will become quite competent. With the Berserker stat line allowing him to do a lot of damage, he'll have really good bulk, and though he can be speed screwed, enemies in Sacred Stones on the whole are slow enough that he should be able to get through just fine, outside of the occasional Hellhound. If you want to make him a hero, he'll also do a pretty good job there as well, getting +2 speed when he promotes from Fighter, which he needs, and though Hero's strength cap is lower than Berserker and Warriors, he'll do plenty of damage in it just fine. Though Berserker is still better because of its crit boost, and he doesn't really need swords, it's more a novelty. And Warrior just isn't recommended for him. It gives him no speed unless you go Pirate first, and he doesn't need bows. Just give him a hand axe or a tomahawk, and that's all he'll need for ranged combat. And if you're wondering about the Super Trainee, it's dumb for Ross. First of all, it gives him no constitution when he promotes either time. So, because of this, axes that wouldn't weigh him down if he became a Berserker or a hero will weigh him down. And when your worst stat is speed, the last thing you want is a speed penalty. The trade-off is that Super Journeyman gets a critical hit bonus. The same exact thing that Berserker gets. It is entirely redundant and just there if you want the novelty of being a Super Trainee. All in all, Ross is certainly competent, even if he might not be the greatest unit in the game. You can use him, odds are he won't get stat screwed, and you can have a very solid Axe Fighter. The second trainee that you get is Amelia, who is in her unique Recruit class line, being a Lance Infantry fighter. Her growth rates are also better than Ross's. While she doesn't have a massive stat like his HP and strength, her competency overall means that she will consistently level up very, very nicely. Her class lines can become either an Armor Knight, to become a General or a Great Knight, or a Cavalier, to become a Paladin or a Great Knight. The Paladin class is probably the best class line for her, as its balanced stat line across the board makes sense for her balanced growths, allowing her to become fast, tanky, and powerful. Though most players opt to make her an Armor Knight purely because Armor Knights look really cool when they do the chain thing. So, yeah. People make her a General purely for the vibes, but her good speed kinda goes completely to waste on that class line. And though Sacred Stones isn't the worst game for an Armor Knight to be in, it's not one of the greatest either. And as a Great Knight, Amelia's just kinda caught in between General and Paladin. It's really not a great class line for her. That class line is good because Dussel's in it, not because the class is necessarily worth taking. And as a super trainee, it's basically the same thing as Ross. Promoting into it will have her end up as a Lance Infantry unit with a crit boost, basically making her a Halberdier before Halberdiers existed. However, promoting into a super trainee still doesn't give you any constitution, so Amelia is going to get weighed down by any lance heavier than Slim. Now, Amelia's speed is much better than Ross's, so this will affect her a little less than him, but it is still a real problem, and I don't understand why super trainees don't get any constitution. But at the very least, a lance unit with a crit boost is unique to Amelia. No other unit in Sacred Stones gets that buff. Though with everything I just said, it ultimately doesn't help with Amelia's biggest problem, her join time. Ross shows up in Chapter 2. Really early, really great, go for it. Amelia shows up in Chapter 9 as essentially a level -7 unit. It requires a lot of babying to get Amelia up. If you're going for any kind of efficient play, Amelia is arguably the worst unit in the entire game. She's just not good and does nothing your other trained units won't do better. But if you're doing a playthrough that's not all about speed, something like a casual playthrough or an Iron Man, a draft, etc., Amelia will be able to contribute really well once you train her up. She's got good growth rates, good class lines, she is good if used, which, given some units in Fire Emblem, makes her better than most. Ewan is the third and final trainee in the game, and he actually has two class lines that don't intersect with each other. His base class is Pupil, a sort of weaker mage that uses anima magic, and his promotion options are Mage, which can take him to Sage, which uses anima, light, and staves, or Mage Knight, which gives him a pony and also lets him use anima and staves. But if you hear Ewan go, "I want to be a mage just like Celica," and decide to tell this child to go fuck himself, you can make him a shaman, taking away his anima magic and turning him down the path of darkness, where you can either give him his anima magic back by promoting him into a druid, which has dark anima and staves, or keep him down the path of darkness forever and make him a summoner, which has dark magic and staves with the ability to make silly little guys. Ewan, like Amelia, has very competent growth rates across the board. He doesn't have a weak stat, so no matter what you make him out of those four, he's going to be very good in. He'll do a lot of damage, he'll be decently fast, and he'll be able to take a hit or two. He is very solid, but his best class line is Summoner, because the silly little guys are just that good. They are the ultimate bait, and enemies love attacking them, so a Summoner is just a damn good class to have lying around. but you can really make him whatever you want. Ewan will do very good no matter what. Oh, and as for his super trainee, blah blah blah, he doesn't get any constitution, so it's not the greatest, but he actually does have a neat niche. Being a tier 2 super trainee gives Ewan the ability to use all 3 types of offensive magic: anima, light, and dark, which no unit in the GBA games outside of Athos can do. And that sounds really cool. Unfortunately, it's probably his worst option. While making him a jack-of-all-trades offensive attacker sounds really cool, staff utility is really, really cool. Being able to heal if you don't need to attack is kind of great, and not being able to do that kind of just makes Ewan worse than other mages. So, while it is cool, I wouldn't recommend it. Much like the other super trainees, it's a novelty more than it is a strategy. I really wish for a secret class that you had to beat the game twice to unlock. Super trainees were better. Just beyond giving them more constitution, give them niches that are better. Like, let Ewan use all 4 types of magic. It's a secret class after beating the game. Just let it be cool as shit. Then maybe let Ross be a War Master that can use all 4 types of physical weapons. And then Amelia some Pegasus Knight that can use axes or something. I don't know, just something cool. Nevertheless, all 3 trainees in Sacred Stones are good if trained. If you're playing a casual or Iron Man or draft, they're good, train them up, you will be rewarded. Though if you're going for an efficient pace, Ross is the only one that's worth it, and even then, he's not the greatest for efficient play. He's just okay. Still though, I'll take that over some of the other units I've discussed in this series. The next game I'm going to talk about is Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon. Now wait, I hear you say, Shadow Dragon doesn't have any villagers, why are you talking about it? Because it introduced the concept that makes villagers have to change: reclassing. Before, the whole shtick of villagers was that they could become a wide variety of different classes. But since Shadow Dragon introduced reclassing, now any unit can reclass and have a wide plethora of things it can become. So that begs the question. Now anyone can become anything. So what do they do with the class that's whole identity was becoming anything? Well, they decided to look at MLB legend Barry Bonds and go, hey, steroids are pretty awesome, because we are entering the aptitude era. In Fire Emblem Awakening, the villager class line has now become a unique class line. It does not promote, and it levels up to level 30 instead of 20, gaining a new skill at base and at level 15. And that skill is the almighty aptitude, increasing a villager's growth rates by 20%, making them very, very strong on every level up. So the goal is to level up a villager to level 10, use a second seal to reclass them into anything other than a villager, and let their incredible growth rates do the talking. Their level 15 skill is Underdog, which, if you are a lower level than your opponent, you get an accuracy and evasion boost. Theoretically, that sounds really good, given that since villagers are going to be reclassed, they're almost always going to be a level under their opponent, but in practice, you want to get villagers the fuck out of villager, so you're not waiting the extra 5 level ups after reaching 10 to second seal them. The lone villager you get in Awakening is Donald, and he is a very popular unit for good reason. His growth rates are insane with aptitude. He'll level up a majority of his stats every single time, and he can very quickly snowball. And due to the pair-up mechanics in Awakening, it's actually not that hard to baby him and make him reach a point where he's babying others. He'll level up very, very well, and his reclass options are pretty solid. He can become a mercenary into a bow knight or hero, or a fighter into a hero or warrior. Much like villagers in the past with good growth rates, due to his very good stats, he'll be good at no matter what you make him. Hero is probably his best option, because getting Soul will mean he'll essentially be immortal on the front lines, and the Spendthrift from Mercenary, combined with his good luck, means you can give him very easily breakable, powerful weapons, and he probably won't break them. And, as if Donald being so powerful isn't incredible in and of itself, his balls can produce the sperm that make a second Donald, because he can pass down aptitude to any of his potential children, meaning you'll have Donald 2 running around with also ridiculous stats. And even more so, since Donald's two classes, Fighter and Mercenary, are male only, if he has a daughter, they become Pegasus Knights and Troubadours. And being able to make any lady a Pegasus Knight, which means you can also get Gale Force, is also really, really good. And while this might be an unscientific thing to say, Donald just has good unit feel. It is very, very fun to take this country bumpkin and turn him into a Godslayer. It just feels good to do, so Donald is a very beloved unit for most people who play Awakening. If there's anything holding him back, it is how bullshit Lunatic Plus is. On the highest difficulties of Awakening, Donald is not really worth babying up, while you would think it would be the opposite, that enemies are really, really strong, so making a really, really strong unit would be really good. It's not quite so in practice. The sheer amount of effort you need to get Donald to the point that he's self-sufficient in Lunatic is so much harder, and you're better off funneling all those resources into someone like Vake, who might not be as high at the peak as Donald, but just starts so much better, it's worth it to push him over the line instead. Still, I think Donald has an argument that he might be one of the top 5 most popular units in the entire franchise. He's just very, very fun, and a lot of players love to use him, and he definitely lives up to the hype. I don't know who at Intelligent Systems thought to turn the Villager class line into ticking time bombs, but God bless them for it. Donald is so much fun to use in Awakening, and I think they did a great job giving villagers a niche in the modern era. Fire Emblem Fates has had some alterations to the Villager class line. They have made it an actual class rather than something that you want to second seal out of right away, being a regular class that levels up to level 20 and can promote into one of 2 other classes, a Master at Arms and a Merchant. The trade-off to this is that aptitude has been nerfed. Now it only increases all of your growth rates by 10% instead of 20. Still helpful, but not quite as insane as before. The first choice, Master of Arms, is statistically quite impressive, granting good promotion gains and having solid growth rates, though its problems lie outside of its stats. The Master Arms gimmick is that it is a Master of Arms, having access to swords, lances, and axes, and thus complete command of the weapon triangle. Though when you promote into one, your non-dominant weapon ranks both start at so you're not really commanding shit using only iron weapons. And on top of that, in Fates, the Reaver weapons are very easy to get, so being locked to only one weapon type is not nearly as bad as it would be in other games. And on top of that even, its basic level 5 skill is Seal Strength. After combat with an enemy, they lose 6 strength. That sounds like a powerful effect, but it's one of the more useless skills in the game. If you have a skill, you want it to help you kill an enemy or give you some kind of sustain. Seal Strength doesn't really ever matter. Your Master of Arms should be killing something in one round of combat, and if they can't, and the only way Seal Strength would be relevant is after you deal damage to them with your Master of Arms, you then have to double them with someone else to kill them, so that the Seal Strength would matter on them counterattacking, and you should not need that many attacks to kill someone. Seal Strength is a useful enemy tool, because playing around it opens up some interesting strategies, but the existence of it for the player is not nearly as strong. What is really powerful, though, and what manages to salvage the Master of Arms, is their ultimate skill, Life or Death. You take 10 more damage, and deal 10 more damage. On the one side, 10 more damage is a lot of fucking damage, getting the Master of Arms power that very few classes can match. Though on the other side, 10 more damage is a lot of damage, and it can severely hinder the Master Arms' frontline survivability. Life and Death, combined with the Master of Arms' good stat line, mean it's a very valid option for your villager, though just be warned that it's not going to be as good as it could be. Maybe if you started with D ranks in your other weapons, that alone would make it much better, but as it stands, it's a good option. And Villager's other option is Merchant, which, okay, Merchant is considered one of the worst classes in Fire Emblem Fates. It is not good, and the only thing saving it from being considered the worst is that Blacksmith is unanimously agreed to be terrible. But I have a soft spot for Merchant because it is undoubtedly the funniest class in the entire series. What do I mean by that? Well, in terms of weapons, Merchants use lances and bows. Okay, simple. Their skills are stupid. And I mean stupid. The level 5 Merchant skill is Profiteer. For the first 7 turns of a map, your Merchant has a luck as a percentage chance to find a gold bar on the ground when they end their turn. Who is leaving these gold bars around? Why are you in the middle of corrupted, infested swamps and are able to find gold bars on the ground? Someone had to have put them there. It's not like they're just chunks of gold. They are fully made gold bars. Where are your merchants finding these? Funny to think about, but even crazier is their level 15 skill, Spendthrift, which lets you spend a gold bar to deal 10 more damage and take 10 less damage. How does that work? Who are you paying this gold bar to? Are you walking up to the enemy and saying, I'm gonna give you a gold bar to fuck off? Are you, using them up and giving them to God, and he is blessing you with superpowers? How does this work? It is so stupid, and you obviously shouldn't think about it too hard, but it is so funny to think about it, because it works on anyone. So imagine if you have Corin with Spendthrift, you walk up to Garen and go, hey, will this gold bar let you take more damage from me? And he's gonna go, you son of a bitch, I'm in. It is such a stupid set of skills. It is not reliable in the slightest, but it is so goddamn funny that I can't help but say it's probably one of my top 3 favorite class lines in Fates. It's just too ridiculous not to love. But you know what else I love? Mozu. She is Fates' lone villager, and is thankfully quite good. She's available on all 3 routes, available quite early on all 3 routes, and she's going to do villager things. While aptitude being nerfed to 10% is kind of a bummer, Mozu's growth rates are so good that it really doesn't matter. She'll be leveling up very well regardless. She has all the benefits you can get by leaving her in villager and making her a Master of Arms or a Merchant, but her main strong suit is in her reclass option into the Archer class line, which is quite relevant in Conquest due to the lack of natural archers on that route, and it also gives her access to Kinshi Knight, making her a very powerful flying unit, and that's usually what people want to make her. Now, how you end up as Kinshi Knight is entirely dependent on the player. You can make her into a Master of Arms to get life and death, and then reclass her over. You can make her a sniper, and then get her bow fair, and then reclass her over. But the general best strategy for Mozu is to end in Kinshi Knight. Though, if you have the DLCs, it can be pretty fun to turn her into those DLC classes. Though do keep in mind the only thing you shouldn't make her is a magic class, as magic is Mozu's lone poor growth. Aptitude is not helping it much at all. So yeah, the villager has some neat options, even if they're not the greatest, and Mozu can get out of villager and have better options. So yeah, solid game for the class. And there is the benefit of, just like Donald, Mozu can also have children and pass down aptitude to them. Though it isn't quite as useful in Fates due to the lower power of aptitude, it's still useful. One of these videos I'm going to be able to get through all of it without talking about eugenics, but it's not today. Fire Emblem Echoes is up next, and as a remake of Gaiden, all the villagers come back. The villager class itself hasn't really changed much at all. The only real addition, if you can call it that, is that the DLC has 3 villager pitchforks in it, allowing you to reclass anyone into a villager whenever you want. So now anyone can have potential. Even Clive. Now, the main thing that's changed is that other classes have gotten better. Archer now feels like an actual functioning member of society, so villagers can actually consider that option. In fact, Tobin and Atlas make very good archers in this game. Mages are also a bit better now, so they now feel like a really good option for Cliff. It's just the same stuff, but where it was weak, it was made stronger. So I'm not going to go over every single villager again. Their stat lines are largely the same. The only things to mention is that because of the existence of Hunter's Volley, Atlas now makes a much better archer than he does a sword fighter, and Tobin can also function as an archer. He also gets early Excalibur, which with his supports makes him a pretty sleeper hit for mage, but the men of Fire Emblem Echoes really aren't that different. What is different is that there is one lone new villager, Faye. Faye's growth rates are actually quite similar to Cliff's, as she has a well-balanced stat spread that makes her good in pretty much whatever you want to put her on. What makes her unique is that she's a woman, and there are multiple gender-locked classes in Echoes. Men get access to Mercenary, Armor Knight, and Archer, whereas women get exclusive access to Pegasus Knight and Cleric, with Cavalier and Mage being available for either gender. And before you ask, yes, archers are male only in Echoes, despite the fact that Faye is featured as an archer in a lot of artwork. I don't know why they decided that that should be something they focus on, it was never possible. Due to Faye's balanced stat spread, she makes a very good unit no matter what you turn her into. Though most people agree her best class is Cleric, because she gets access to the very useful physics spell at a paltry level 6. She also gets Rescue, which is a great movement option, and she gets access to Anew, a spell that is essentially a dance and lets a unit move again. Though she gets it very, very late, so it's not as big of a boon as you would think, but it's still enough for a lot of players to make her a Cleric. But if you want to make her a Pegasus Knight or a Paladin, she'll do good work there too. Her stat spread really can work with whatever the hell you want. Another neat quirk for Faye is that she can actually be recruited in Celica's campaign. If you just leave her there at the start of the game with Alm, and then, before triggering the end of Act 2 with Celica, go all the way back to Ram Village, you can find her there still, and she'll gladly come along with Celica. Cliff can also do this. This isn't really that good, as Faye and Cliff are meant to be in Alm's army, that's where all of their support bonuses are. Though Faye does have a passive bonus with Celica, it's not nearly as good as her Silk and Alm bonuses. So it's something you can do to be funny, And making Faye into a Pegasus Knight and having her be the 4th White Wing isn't terrible, but it's not recommended. Also, speaking of support bonuses, did you know that Faye actually loses evasion when she supports with Alm? I guess it's trying to explain that she just runs into battle like a fucking lunatic whenever he's nearby with no regard for her own safety, and I think that's kind of cool. Just wanted to mention that. While villagers are better in Echoes because Echoes classes are slightly stronger than Gaidens, I kind of do wish there was another woman villager alongside Faye. As it stands, having gender-locked classes for villagers doesn't really mean anything when the gender ratio is 4 men to 1 woman, though I guess the villager pitchfork somewhat alleviates that, but that's a DLC item. I really wish you could have played around with this more, either by making the villager pitchfork easily obtainable in-game, or giving Tobin estrogen, I don't know. I just wish that there were more female villagers than just Faye. I feel like you could have set up for a lot more interesting choices if that were the case. But, as it is, villagers are once again the class of potential, and now their potential is even better. So, good for Echoes. Good for Echoes. And that is technically the last appearance of villagers in Fire Emblem. 3 houses and Engage do not have the villager class line anywhere. But they do have 2 units who are meant to carry the flame of the villager class line by possessing aptitude. So, even though I will fully acknowledge that they are not villagers, I am still going to cover Cyril and Jean, because when discussing villager units in Fire Emblem, a lot of people bring them up because they fulfill the same purpose. So, I understand if you think they shouldn't be here, and if you don't think they should be here, just click off the video. Leave. Go see your family or something. Though they're not villagers, Fire Emblem 3 Houses does kind of have a villager-adjacent class with commoners and nobles. They're what all of your students start out as, and then as you level them up, you turn them into fighters or soldiers, and you just go into whatever you actually want them to be. The classes exist as purely a stepping stone, so in a way, they're kind of Gaiden villagers in all but name. The only thing that they give you is HP plus 5 if you master the class, which is nice, but not exactly anything interesting to talk about. There's probably some profound statement to be made about how classism is at the center of a lot of 3 Houses' story, and all of your units, commoner or noble, start on the same playing field, but this ain't about that. This is about gameplay, and gameplay-wise, these units are boring as hell, and we're moving on to Cyril. Cyril is a frustrating unit. What do I mean by that? Well, okay. First of all, the reason I'm talking about him is he has the previously only villager skill, Aptitude, and it has been rebuffed to be plus 20% to all growths, like it was for Donald. So why is Cyril frustrating? Well, let's just put his growth rates next to Donald's. And, okay, they're a little lower in places, a little higher in others. They seem to be about the same. Oh wait, sorry, I'm lying to you. Those are Cyril's growth rates with Aptitude, and Donald's growth rates without Aptitude. Once I give Donald his Aptitude, you can see the problem. Cyril's growth rates aren't made ridiculous by Aptitude, they're made functional. It's as if Cyril's growth rates were made with the knowledge that he has Aptitude in mind. So they are purposefully much lower than other units, so once they get Aptitude, they become good. But then that begs the question, why give him Aptitude in the first place? Why not just make those his own growth rates and then give him a proper personal skill? The thing that made Donald fun was that Aptitude made him broken. Cyril isn't even bad. He's still more than a competent unit. It's just frustrating because they render aptitude completely pointless. He's not going to become some god like Donald. He's just a kid who's gonna become a man who's good. Nothing crazy, nothing that fun. They use aptitude to bait you into thinking you're going to have a Donald or a Mozu, and you don't. His growth rates are about what you would expect from Leonie or Ingrid. And Leonie and Ingrid are good. Cyril's good. Again, he's not bad, he's frustrating. He's just a lazy way to make a unit have a personal skill. And the fact that aptitude is his personal skill is worse than for Donald and Mozu. Because for them, once they got strong enough that they didn't need the boost from aptitude, you could take aptitude off and give them a skill that actually does something. Cyril can't do that. He is tied to aptitude, so he just doesn't have a personal skill. And when you're in the same game as Felix and Bernadetta, you notice when you don't have a personal skill. I'm looking at you, Ash. But with that bitching now out of the way, he does have some redeemable qualities. Cyril is very close at base to the skill Point Blank Volley, which gives him some really good killing potential with an increase in damage and an automatic double. With that, even in Maddening, base Cyril can contribute right away when you get him. And because his growth rates are still good, he'll level up quite well. You don't need to put in as much work as you would think to make Cyril reach a level where he's helpful. Cyril's canon class, if left to his own devices, is Wyvern Rider, and honestly, there's not much reason to change that. He will make a fantastic Wyvern Lord if you decide to train him up. Some people say that he's kind of just Diet Claude, but here's the thing. Claude is really fucking good, so Diet Claude is still really good. You can just have two bow Wyvern Lords going around, and you know what? They're gonna fucking kill things. Cyril is good. He just is so lazily designed. It's like they wanted to give aptitude because it was really popular in Fates and Awakening, but didn't actually want to make a broken unit, so it just feels really bad. If you're going to give a skill that affects growth rates, you either need to just make it broken, or find something cool to do with it. And Cyril does not do something cool with it. Thankfully, Fire Emblem Engage does something cool with it. Its aptitude user is the young boy Jean, which, first of all, having a 10-year-old have all this potential is really funny, but he also does something kinda cool with it. In Engage, aptitude is not just a flat increase to Jean's growth rates. Instead, what it does is double class growth rates. So what this ends up meaning is Jean becomes the min-maxed version of whatever class you have him in. For example, a speedy class like Swordmaster or Wolf Knight normally adds 20% to someone's growth rate, but with Jean, it adds 40% speed to his growth rate, giving him a ridiculous 80% speed stat. General normally gives 25% HP and 30% defense. With Jean, that is plus 50% to HP growth and plus 60% for defense. Jean just becomes the fully realized version of whatever class you want him to be. And due to how second seals work in Fire Emblem Engage, you can reclass him at any point into whatever you want him to be. So his potential is truly limitless. If you want the real solid stuff, you're gonna want to make him a Berserker if you want him to become anything physical. This is because Berserkers offer the highest HP and strength growth rates at 30% each, so with them slapped on him, he will become a physical monster with a lot of health. And then once you deem Jean strong enough, you reclass him into whatever physical class you want him to be. Wolf Knight, Wyvern Lord, whatever. And if you want to go magical, You kinda can just leave him in his starting class of martial monk, and then promote him, and you can make him either a sage or a high priest, and he's going to have really, really high magic and speed, and can decimate enemies. I actually kind of like Jean's take on aptitude more than Donald's. It still feels really strong, but feels more balanced. He's a fun unit to use. That being said, I do have some thoughts. One of Jean's biggest problems is when you get a second seal. The first second seal you get is on Chapter 9, which is quite a while away from when you can get him, so that means, unless you want to just leave Jean at level 1 that whole time, you're going to be giving him a lot of level ups in Priest, which, depending on if you want Jean to be a physical unit or not, might be a bad thing. And, on top of that, he does suffer from the mid-game units. I've talked about this a lot in this series, but the mid-game units in Fire Emblem Engage are fucking ridiculous. So, yes, while you could train up Jean, reclass him into Berserker, and make him a truly powerful physical unit, you could also just reclass Kagetsu, or reclass Marin, and whatever Jean would be, they're probably going to be as good, if not better, even though Jean is still good. A unit with endless potential kind of just runs into a wall with units that don't need any work to get to their potential, and Engage's mid-game has a lot of those. But even with that being said, just because there are other dudes that do his job better potentially, doesn't mean he's bad. If you like the idea of turning this cute little 10-year-old boy into a god on the battlefield, Jean will work even in Engage's highest difficulties. He is usable and he is fun, he just runs into the outclassed by Kagetsu problem. It's a real epidemic in Engage, and I hope they find a cure for it someday. And that wraps up the villager classes. I really like what they bring to the table, and I really hope that Jean's skill of aptitude gets another shot in Fortune's Weave. I think that's a really cool way to do it, but honestly, I really like villagers. Even if the concept of second seals and reclassing has kind of made their initial niche obsolete, I still look forward to seeing what they're gonna do in the future. Maybe future Fire Emblems won't have as many second seals, so villagers can return to the potential machines they used to be. Or maybe aptitude will be here to stay. Who really knows? Thank you very much for watching. This has been a lot of fun to make, as all these videos are. And I am saying goodbye to a dear friend. This is the last video I'm planning to make on my old gaming laptop. My entire YouTube career has been on a now decade-old laptop, and I finally have a computer. So, rest in peace, old friend. You've been through a lot. Before we go, I would like to thank my patrons for their continued support. Link to my Patreon is in the description below, and I would greatly appreciate it if you gave it a look. My patrons include the likes of Across the Night, Adebayo Thompson, Alex Aruliga, Amu is not beating the Tails allegations, Andrew Crockett, Bean Juice, Hell on Heelys, Jaehyun, Jespacito 2, Larmachi, Lichuman, Ly17 Bolt, Morgan Lorgan, Played Arrow, Played is pronounced like the pattern, Ranger Man Sam, Sean Vossi, Shen Lu, Viri the Artist, Ya Girl Owen, Brentendo 11, Drew Hack, Ginger, Goo Goo Gaga Cornelia Milkers 92, Inverse, Lev Maverick, Maple Knight, Sombret, and Upscale Furry Trash. Thank you all for your continued support, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.